What's going on, yo? Welcome to another episode of the Grace of Fishing podcast. This is your co-host Johnny, and this is my beautiful wife,
Priscilla.
the one and only, my wife, my wifey, my better half, my better part of me, the one that I look at every morning when I wake up and I'm like, whoa, who is this beautiful girl next to me?
Oh, thank you.
I love
It's more like, babe, the kids are up.
Yeah, you're right.
But you did tell me a few nice things this morning. You said, I'm so grateful I get to wake up to you.
Yes, absolutely. I always wake up grateful to you.
Me too.
It's just like whenever you wake up and you have two babies crying,
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
It's a little
yes,
bit of a mood
it's
killer,
go,
a little
go.
bit. Yeah, no, it's just a different season we're in right now, especially with potty training right now. It's like, hurry up, Gabby's awake. Take her to the bathroom.
Yep, that's how it's been lately. But so glad to have you guys here. Thank you for tuning in again to another episode. And well, today we're just continuing and actually finishing up our relationship series, at least for now. Maybe we'll bring it up at another occasion with, I don't know, a little bit more wisdom and more relational equity.
Yeah.
But as of right now, we're going to end it with marriage, which is obviously the end goal for most people. Not everybody will or wants to get married. But I do believe that when, going back to Genesis and God saying, have dominion of this earth and, be fruitful and multiply, definitely it's a calling, right? It's a calling to have a family and to be, fruitful and multiply, which is two really beautiful things that we can apply to every single area of our lives. But yeah, marriage is a great thing. But let's dive in a little bit. Let's talk about the reality of marriage. Let's talk about what to expect in marriage. Let's talk about the good things, the bad things. Let's just talk about our experience. I mean, I believe that we have a really good relationship. I might be biased, but I mean, I know a lot of people, and I think our dynamic, our demeanor with each other, I don't know. I think, at least from my perspective, I believe that we have a good relationship. And every once in a while, we do hear people saying that they look up to our relationship and they want to be like us and eventually have a family like ours. And all of it is extremely humbling. So, yeah, I just kind of want to talk about just marriage in general and see kind of where we go from there.
I agree with you so much. Isn't there a verse, I think it's in Proverbs?
There's always a verse.
That says wisdom is proven to be right by its results.
Come on now. Yes. But I don't think it was in Proverbs. Actually, Jesus was the one that said that. We can look that up.
Okay. I love that verse because it's almost like that's a way that you can tell that there is something good. There is something of wisdom. That's something that's sound-minded. Is you see the fruit, you see the result. And I believe that in our relationship, we've been able to produce good fruit. And in John 15, it talks about this a great deal and how it is honoring to the Lord. It pleases the Lord to produce good fruit. As we abide in him and he abides in us, we're able to be also pruned and are able to produce good fruit. And through our marriage, we're able to do that in ways that serve other people, in ways that witness to other people, that show people the love of Jesus Christ and the love that he has for the church. I mean, there's so many parallels in the Bible about the love that Jesus Christ has for his church and how a husband loves his bride. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to get to read and also experience in the daily.
All right. I found it. It's actually Luke 7:35.
Definitely Jesus' words. Not
Yep.
King Solomon.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it says this, but wisdom is shown to be right, but the life of those who follow it. So that's one translation.
Version, yeah.
And then let me go to the NIV. So we go back to
it's good to look at different
35.
versions because they give you more of they just give you more round understanding, like a much just different perspectives.
This is interesting how this one said, but wisdom is proved right by her. Okay, but wisdom is proved right by all her children. It's almost like an offspring
right?
From giving birth to results. And hold up. There's multiple times that in the book of Proverbs, wisdom is referred as a female. Yeah. Exactly.
I was just thinking that right
and
now.
And then let's do the King James Version, because I believe this is going to be the most popular one. But it says, but wisdom is justified of all her children. I love that. Anyways. So yeah, by all means, whenever somebody claims to be very knowledgeable or know a lot of things, like I always look at the fruits. It's almost like, why are you asking a person that like has had multiple divorces relationship advice? Right. That's like, or how do you have someone that never plays sports tell you how to play them?
And I think it's very important to keep an open mind whenever you hear people talking about their own experiences. Remember, it's their own experiences. So we're going to be sharing that from our own perspectives, and obviously our life experiences take part in that.
Yes.
We're not experts. We just want to share a little bit of what we've learned, maybe some give you insight on some things about marriage that maybe you've never heard before, maybe you never thought of before. I know that there's a lot that I had to learn and I didn't think of before I got married. And it's so interesting how our pastor actually was preaching about this last Sunday. And he was like, if you would have known everything that you were going to go through in your relationship, in your marriage, in your ministry calling, whatever that thing is that you said yes to, if you knew the end result and everything that you went through, would you still say yes to that? Yeah. And that put things in perspective for me. I feel like I would say yes all over again, because it's still been way more like good things versus the bad things that have happened. And I wouldn't even say the bad things were like even that bad. I think the bad things still, God was able to turn them he turns all things for our good. I think there's a verse that talks about that, and I keep thinking about it this week and I keep butchering it, but basically he's working all things. There's a song. Don't
look at me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Always work together for. Anyway, he's always working for our good, y'all. He's always
all things work together for our good. Or you're good. Like,
I'm gonna have to look up that verse.
Song is being said on like a third person perspective.
But you guys know what I'm talking about. I am not the best like memory or verse memorizer, but I know that he's always, even though the bad things that are going on in your life, maybe things that you did not anticipate going through in a relationship, know that God has the ability to turn that around and help you grow through that. And we've definitely seen that happen in our relationship.
Yeah. I think it's not that the bad things weren't as bad. I believe that there's things in our relationship that were bad, like moments in our relationships that sucked. But there was in none of that were any infidelity or any domestic violence of any kind or any verbal violence. None of that. It's just like arguments and situations, right? But what I would say is this: the bad moments compared to the good moments, the good moments completely outweigh the bad moments.
Absolutely.
So I think that we just choose to focus on the positive aspects of our relationship.
Yeah.
That keeps us looking forward to what's next and everything, right?
I think they're just hard times that everybody goes through, and they're unifying times too, because when you go through something difficult, you actually become a little bit closer to that person that you just went through that with. And to what Pastor was saying about if you would have said no or yes, whatever your answer is, you're essentially saying yes to something that you don't know, to the unknown.
Absolutely.
Was
So
that your next point? I'm sorry.
no, no, it's just I feel like you're taking us on a really fast trip, and like I want to like
Oh,
slow
sorry.
down for a second because there's a lot that you're said that like we need to dive into.
Okay.
I'm literally remembering Tim Rose is like, whoa, hold on, let's slow down for a second and let's dwell on that for a minute. Because it's true. Like I feel like there are things that we need, like we should extend on and talk a little bit more about them. There's one thing that you mentioned that I want to clarify. Yes, we're talking about our opinions and our perspective on this, but we're using it with a biblical lens. We just want to
Yes.
make sure that that's clear. We're
Mm-hmm.
not here just like, oh, we're just gonna tell you our perspective and like tell you that this is what worked for us. That is part of it, and we're using our biblical
Mm-hmm.
knowledge to back us up and on this because we're not trying to reinvent marriage. We're trying to commit to how marriage is established and how it should be.
Yes.
You
I
know,
love that you said that at the end. We're not trying to reinvent marriage because I think a lot of people are trying to make it into something that it's not. Make it
hundred
something
percent.
that's nuanced or convenient or
Oh
very
man, oh man.
just
There's so much in there.
untraditional. I guess you could say. I don't know.
All right.
There's
Well, let's start this. Let's dive in a little bit and let's go slowly and let's not get too deep too fast, but also like let me just start. I feel like I know what I want to say, but my brain is like firing up so quick. Anyways,
yeah.
so let's talk marriage. All right. So we obviously, as you guys, if you don't know, in our previous episodes, we've kind of mentioned how we met and everything. But in short, we dated for 2 years, and in our second year, I proposed to Priscilla, and it was amazing. It was great. Everything really went according to plan and probably better than I thought it would.
It was amazing.
God moved within people and relationships. And I just want to say for a quick second, a side note, many times that God will bless and open doors is going to be through people. So don't be mean to people. Be loving to people. Um, always plant seeds of goodness
Don't
and
burn your bridges.
don't ever burn any bridges because you don't know when that same person, same company, same church is going to lift you up at a different place of your life.
It's a small world out here.
I'm telling y'all, this is a cheat code right here. Do not burn any bridges. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So, where I was going with this. Okay. People definitely like from different angles completely help me put this thing together where in a normal world this would have probably cost $5,000 maybe $10,000 to put together, and it cost me nothing.
That's the craziest thing because it was like a little pre-wedding. It was actually in a wedding
Baby,
venue.
that's a whole venue, and that costs a lot of money.
We had it all to ourselves.
So
the rooftop of a hotel.
It was. I mean, and that doesn't matter as much as the actual facts of people. God used people to position this beautiful venue so that I could propose to Priscilla the way I dreamt of. And this was just my experience, so like I don't want anyone to feel less than because it was like at a none of that. Like I don't want anyone to get confused about what really was the gift and the blessing here.
What really matters.
What really matter is that God was in the midst of all of it, and we had a great experience, and God used people to do that, right? So after that, obviously, we got married soon after. Maybe I think it was 6, 7, or 8 months later. I can't remember exactly, but
it was about 8 months.
But we did not. We didn't live together until we got married and we came back from our honeymoon. We did it like the traditional way. We did it what we would call the right way. But there is a order to things. There is an importance to the order, how you do things, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you are sketchy doing stuff in private at your job, you're going to be sketchy in other things like relationships and business decisions. And so the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So we tried our very best in every single part of the essence of the word, or what it compensates, to do the right thing and get to our marriage and be able to start it, like our parents would have wanted us to do it, how we were raised to approach it, which is to get married, go to our honeymoon, and come back and start our lives.
Yeah.
And I think it was beautiful.
And
What do you
not
think
just,
about that?
yeah, not just to honor our parents, but to honor God and honoring our parents. First God and then our parents. And that's a commandment, to honor your parents. And at that point we were adults. Like, I was 25 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, baby.
And still living with my parents. And I think it was a gift. Of course, there were times where that became difficult because my parents didn't know, and I'm sure your dad also was on the same boat. They had never had to parent adults living under their roof with the same rules that they had when they were teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's interesting. Yeah.
that's something that I always felt like it was difficult for them, and it was difficult for me. And of course my sister, as she was going through that season of her life after I got married. But it is, I mean, if you're going through that right now, and it is tough, and it is also a good time to prepare you for what's coming. Because I feel like for me, it prepared me in many different ways. I, at the time, I went through all of my college years living with my parents, and that saved me a lot of money, and it allowed me to save for my next season that I was really needing to save for the engagement season, which we were not only building our house, we were also planning a wedding, and these deposits were like due back to back. Like, we had to really save and also pay and still like upkeep the cost of living. So that was a season of our lives where we were like, are we gonna be okay? Like, and we started having to walk by faith, trust in God and in each other before we even got married.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. So, first of all, I just want to say, like, I really appreciate your parents for what they did and the way they raised you, because they made you into a great individual. You're I think that if we had to do it all over again, you probably would do it the same exact way, because it led us here.
And I think I would have done it with a lot more, like with a better heart posture, because I was at some points I was getting desperate to just go and like spread my wings and fly and go to my nest and get to my other side of my life.
But God's timing is always perfect.
Right.
I think, it happened like it was supposed to, and He protected you.
Yeah.
The fact that you were submitted to them and you were obedient to them got you to this point of our lives where where I could find a wife and you could find a husband. For me, I was living still with my dad, but I was so busy with like school, work, gym, friendships, you
made yourself intentionally busy
I
too.
made myself intentionally busy, yeah. And I would, get home kind of late, and I would sleep and start it over again. And it was, it's a story for a different day, but I was still under my parents' roof, and I'm really grateful to my dad, because it allowed me to almost like propel us forward, so that we could start our marriage with a brand new home, and went into an amazing honeymoon. I know we worked really hard to get there, but regardless of all of that, it was a beautiful season that we started together.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I was perfect or like anywhere near perfect in the waiting season of all of that, because it was really a trying season. There was so much to look forward to, yet there was so much time that we still had left to get married. And so I don't want to ever mislead people into thinking that I was perfect or you were perfect.
No, by
We
no means.
like literally hanging on to God, and it was through his grace that we were able to accomplish what we accomplished. It was, all glory to him, and we were closer and better for each other through all of that.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful to, obviously, God. I mean, that he placed me in front of you, and vice versa. It was literally like literally an answer prayer.
Literally.
No, like literally. Like,
Like,
I want you guys to
literally.
know that literally I prayed for this woman.
Literally.
I literally prayed for this woman, and I don't want to take too much time
Yeah.
explaining how that happened. We have also mentioned it in previous episodes,
Mhm.
but yeah, this is the woman I prayed
Yeah.
for.
I prayed for you too.
Thanks, babe.
And I'm still praying for you, just so you know.
You too.
It like
Need
has
prayer.
a different meaning now.
You still need prayer, woman.
It's like, I was praying for you to come into my life, and then now we're married, and I'm like, I'm praying for you, Johnny.
Yeah, literally.
No.
Oh man, but marriage is a beautiful thing, yo. But it's not easy. Let's just establish something real quick, because Priscilla said she dropped some bombs and she didn't even realize it. She didn't even
I did
she
realize
didn't
it,
even realize
but
it.
I didn't. I feel like we weren't there yet, and so I kind of like went back
Yeah.
in my little turtle shell.
All right, so let's look at Old Testament Bible and how, having that relationship with God was so different than the way that we get to experience our relationship with God now, having Jesus, right? Having grace, having the connection with him through the Holy Spirit. Before Jesus, there was none of that. Before Jesus, it was just literally a connection with Abba, the Father. And the only way that you can accomplish that sometimes was through prophets. It was sometimes through very specific moments, but you had to be so righteous and so cleansed of your sinful nature that it was nearly impossible to do that, because we were still all faulty and full of sin. So the presence of God, a God that is so holy, could not be in the same presence of someone full of sin. So that's why the sacrifices became a thing, and someone had to pay for the price of sin, which is death. And that price, came with a cost, which it was blood. So that's why they used to sacrifice animals so that they could cleanse themselves, and that animal pay the price of your sin so that you could be righteous with Abba.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that crazy, first of all? And those places, and many times they were called altars.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the altars were used for a sacrificial, whether it was an offering or a sacrificial death, so that you could be cleansed and so that you could have that fellowship and relationship with God.
Yeah. This is all of Leviticus. And
It's
it was
like
a pleasing
Exodus,
aroma
Leviticus,
to the
and
Lord.
Sheesh. I mean, it's like all over that Old Testament, and it's kind of wild. So like if you're a new believer, or if you're like even like considering for the very first time reading your Bible, I will say skip first, skip the Old Testament.
For
Don't
now.
don't read it on chronological order. I'm sorry, don't read it on the order that is established. Go through John, Luke, Matthew, James, Peter, all those books. Like, they're gonna tell you about Jesus, which is what our whole belief system is on.
Yeah, they're the Gospels, and it's one of the I believe the best ways to get to know Jesus's character is through reading the stories that these disciples wrote about in these books.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also read the Old Testament, and there's so much goodness in there that overlaps into the New Testament too. And
I was gonna say that it gives context to who Jesus is.
Yeah.
So like the whole thing about our faith.
Yeah. And I would say the Bible Project on YouTube helps to really,
that's really cool.
because it illustrates and breaks down some of these harder chapters to read. I mean, they I think they've made it for every single book.
Mm-hmm. So we mentioned altars, right? Altars is what it used to be for a sacrificial offering. I don't know if anybody has made this connection in the past, but do you ever think about why, when you get married at an altar. Let's just let it marinate for a second. The place, come on, baby, tell them. The place where you get married is called an altar.
Oh, come to
By the way, Priscilla's just like redoing the camera. Yeah, she's like redoing the cameras real quick, so make sure that we get everything situated. You always do that. There you go. So yeah, guys, let's just. I'm gonna mention that again because I want to make sure you guys understand this. The place where you get married is called an altar. Meaning, this is what I understand by it. If in the Old Testament an altar meant sacrifice, when you get married at an altar, you're declaring to everybody that you are going to sacrifice for the person that you're getting committed to for the rest of your life.
for love, out of love,
For love.
with love. That is
Mhm.
Jesus that helps you to love because he is love.
Mm-hmm. I cringe. Like, I absolutely cringe at this marriage videos where I've come across a few of them where they start saying their vows, and they're saying for good and for worse, for rich and poor, and all this and that. And there was one that basically the guy was kind of telling the lady what to say, and then it was a part where he says, "And now be submitted to my husband and obey," and she's like, I didn't agree on that. In the middle of her marriage vows.
Are you serious?
100%.
What kind of videos are you watching?
I don't know, man. The
are they on
algorithm just
TikTok?
hit different.
Wow.
I'm
Wait,
telling
what?
you. Yes, and then
This
she.
happens?
Yes, and then the girl looks at the guy like, "I'm not agreeing to this," and he's like, "No worries, well," and then basically they keep going with their
We'll
marriage
hash it out later.
in their freaking marriage vows.
Wow.
Vows.
Wow.
So
I have so much to say about that, but that's not what today is about.
yeah, baby, I know you want to listen. Is power under control. Yes. but yeah, crazy. I cringe because you're not getting married so that you could get something out of the person in front of you. You're getting married because you're sacrificing yourself for the love of your life, for the rest of your life. You're committing to telling that person in good and in bad, I will be there for you. If we're rich or if we're poor, I will be there for you. If we have a mansion or if we don't have a place to live, I will be there for you. If you're sick or if you're healthy, I'll be there for you. Like this is you're committing to, not to what you know about that person. I didn't commit to Priscilla, and I didn't commit to Priscilla with all her attributes. I literally committed at the altar to say yes to everything that I don't know.
Thanks, honey. How's it working out for you?
It's going great. But it's true. Like I want people to realize that when you're getting married and you're saying yes, you're not saying yes to the things that you know. You're saying yes to the things that you don't know. You don't know if you're going to go into a bankruptcy next year. You don't know if the love of your life is going to be healthy forever. You don't know if there's going to be infertility issues. Like, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then what happens is like, you don't know if the person that you married was a millionaire and they lost everything. Like, you just don't know. And you cannot base your relationship on what you do know. You have to base your relationship on what you don't know. You have to commit to the good and the bad. You can't just choose and pick what you want. That's not what marriage is about. And if that's you, please don't get married.
Yeah.
Sorry, just gotta
or
say
if that's you and you think maybe you don't like something about your future spouse and you're just like, well, we'll just keep going with the wedding planning or with the dating or wherever you're at, and with the mindset of like, that's okay, I can change that later. You cannot change other people.
I mean, I want to say this.
Only through the work of the Holy Spirit can people be changed. And
yes.
If you had any part in it, I would think that the better heart posture to have is that you allowed God to work through you, that your prayers were heard and answered, that you aided in the process and you pointed your significant other towards Jesus and not towards a selfish desire of yours. because it can get kind of tricky. You can get into some muddy waters by thinking, well, I could just tweak this and tweak that, and he spends too much time doing this. Maybe I can busy him with doing other stuff. And then you're like modifying your boyfriend and tweaking and changing things, but you fell in love with your boyfriend or your girlfriend as they were. And so why do we go into marriage and through many years into marriage thinking and hoping and praying that we can single-handedly change our spouse to fit the mold that we want them to be in?
I've always experienced this. Whenever I try to fix something about you, you bite back and clap back so hard.
And it's so out of character
Like,
for me.
and
Like,
and but the
I don't want to do that.
the thing is, like, the same thing is in the other way. Like
For
when
you.
you try to do that to me, like I repel that. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not changing. Like, and it's not that. I want to clarify something. Like, it's not that change isn't good. You will change in your relationship. You will
Absolutely.
continue to grow. But what we're talking about here is that you're not the one responsible to change your spouse. Because if you met me being extrovert and happy and bubbly, why are you gonna make me an introvert and calm and quiet?
Because you're
Like,
overpowering. Yeah.
like,
I
no,
know.
that's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the essence of me is I like to make friends and be bubbly and be smiling and sometimes loud and all that, and sometimes say inappropriate things. Like, it's just Johnny, right?
Yeah.
And then I know Priscilla, but I believe that, and we've experienced this on each other's end,
And
where
we have to keep each other in check.
when
to
we
not do
pray,
that.
when we pray about each other instead of trying to fix each other with our own strength,
Mm-hmm.
it's a completely different result, and it's a completely different outcome. And many times it is a lot better than what you could have done on your best day.
Yeah. And don't think that, well, because I can already see a few people maybe thinking this. Well, if you feel like there's something up with your spouse or your significant other that you would like there to be some change in, obviously this, like, the word change is so broad. What kind of change are we talking about? Okay, so is this a positive change, negative change? I don't know. Obviously, take that up to your Heavenly Father. Talk to Him. Say, okay, am I okay? Am I maybe overthinking this? Can you renew my mind about this?
Oh my God, my toes shut in the
oh,
camera.
No.
Not Tim Ross again.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I'm okay. Let me just stop. My toes. He's sorry, y'all. Don't clip him.
What?
Like, they'll make a clip out of him.
Anyway, well, what was I saying?
I'm sorry. You were saying what kind of change?
Yeah. So if you're hoping for something to change for the better, and it's maybe interrupting in your time together, or I don't know, it's maybe it's not something that you're trying to change the character of that person, but you're trying to change how maybe your dynamic is for the better. So say you're on a date and you're constantly seeing your significant other. Sorry, honey. I think I'm just going to choose like a specific example so I don't like trip over myself. But like, say you're on a date and you see your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband and wife, and they're on their phone, and then they're on their phone again, they put it down, they pick it back up, and you see this as a pattern, like when you go out with them or when you're at the dinner table or you're having intentional time with them and they're doing this, and this is something that bothers you. Because I think most of us would want the other person to give them the undivided attention that they deserve. And in this society, I think we all kind of get distracted with our phones. So I wouldn't say it's like, it's not abnormal. Like, a lot of people will just go to their phone and check their phone. But if this is something that's bothering you and you know it's interfering with your relationship and your ability to bond and connect and communicate, yeah, bring it up. Be bold and be kind when you bring it up. Say, hey, when you pick up your phone while we're having our alone time, I really value this time and I really treasure it. But when you're on your phone, I feel like there's interference. I feel like you're not paying as much attention to me, and it makes me feel like I'm not that important. Is that what's going on through your mind? What's going on?
Yeah. So what Priscilla is doing is using the skills and the tools that she's gathered over the years to communicate that properly. Because somebody might just say like, "Why are you on your phone? Get off your phone. Are you tired of being on your phone? You've been on your phone all day," and it's confrontational.
And that was me at the beginning.
Yes. Yes,
That was me at the beginning, and not at first. At first, I would be kind of, on the nicer side and say, "Hey, could you get off your phone?" And then I would like run out of patience.
Yeah.
And then I would say it not so nicely. I would say stuff like, "I feel like you don't care about me. I feel like you care more about your phone than me." And this I'm choosing a real example so you guys could see like this is real stuff that can happen. And the reason I say this is that it's okay to bring it up to your significant other and talk about it in a civilized, in a good way. And then once you've mentioned it to them and it's in their radar and they're aware of it, don't keep nagging. Just let them grow from it. Give them the room to grow and change that on their own without you being this constant nag and constant drip.
Yeah.
And pray about it. I would say in the background as you're waiting for that person to improve in this area, pray for them.
The whole concept of what she's saying is essentially shed light into the issue or whatever it is that you're experiencing and allow them to make the decision to change. That's all it is. You're shedding you're shedding light into a specific thing. Like when you tell me, "Hey, the reason why you just don't want to throw a wet towel is because it gets an odor. So whenever you put the towel, spread it," right? Obviously, you said it a little bit more aggressively, more Caribbean like. But what I'm saying is more passionately, but it's shedding light, saying, "Hey, this is why I do it this way." And many times that's gonna be a lot better than being confrontational. It's like, "Why do you always put the towel like that? Don't you know it smells?" Like, and then I don't know about y'all, but for me that doesn't work. It's just like, "Yo, calm down. It's just a towel." So
the other person may not know why you are desiring change. They may just think everything's fine.
Correct.
You need to let them in.
I think communication is extremely important, like in every kind of area. And obviously we're talking about really small stuff. So like, I want to make sure, I want to kind of move forward from this conversation and talk about some of the things that are maybe a little bit bigger. Like for example, before moving forward, just make sure that you communicate properly what it is that your expectations are from your significant other, but also do it in a way where you're being respectful and you're being loving and you're being caring, because you don't want to try to shed light, but you're rather shoving down their throat the light that you're trying to like. It doesn't work like that. At least for me and my personality, if you come to me and you say it with a nice, loving, quiet spirit, and you come to me and you say, "Baby, let's sit down. I just want to explain this to you, and I wanna see what your thoughts are on this. This is why I put the towel the way it is. It has to do with hygiene. It has to do with smell. It has to do with like microorganisms." So like it gives me context, and I'm like, wow, she actually cares about me, instead of like straight up complaining. Like, please, if you're gonna do something about your relationships and your marriage, arm yourself with communication tools, and with wise advice from people that are in relationships. Read the 5 love languages. Read books that have to do with marriage. It's like, equip yourself so that you're not aimlessly arguing about towels for the rest of your life because you cannot communicate it properly. Now,
that's funny.
Now, you might be thinking, like, if you're married and you got into this specific podcast and you're trying to figure out bigger issues, like, for example, infidelity, where you're trying to figure out, is it okay to have friends with another, if you're a guy, is it okay to have female friends? Is it okay to have a work wifey? Or, yeah, so, like,
that just made me feel so uncomfortable.
It does, but it happens so often that I think it should be addressed. Like
Yeah.
what is okay and what isn't in a relation when you're in a marriage relationship. Okay? Because we understand this. When God created the heavens and the earth, he created everything with boundaries. Like he created everything to so there's an order to things, right? He didn't say, "Bro, YOLO is the earth, water, oceans. Let's all have a
Mixed together.
party. Let's just mix and whatever happens, happens, and let's go with the flow." Boom. No, God said, and this is the end. And from this I'm gonna separate the water from the earth. And he did that with everything. It's just like his principles show that there are boundaries for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way, there should be boundaries within your marriage.
Yeah.
You should set up healthy boundaries so that you protect your relationship with your wife or your husband.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about for a quick second here. So let's say in today's society, how would it make you feel if you start hearing, "Oh, Johnny has a work wife"? And by the way, to give you context of what that looks like, it's just like you know you're not at home and you're at work and you develop this relationship with this person and you guys spend so much time together that either you describe her as your work wife or you describe her as your work husband because you guys work as as a team and you guys just have a work relationship that many times takes you to an actual affair. But how would that make you feel if someone came and tell you, "Oh, Johnny has a work wife," or describe it as a work wife?
Wow. That's a very loaded question. Yeah, that is just don't play with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mess with fire because if you're putting the word wife next to any other person that is not your wife, or you are seeing other people as you would see your wife, it says it in the word. You don't even have to physically come in contact for that to be adultery. You can commit adultery emotionally.
100%.
So don't even mess with that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that is a very foolish and unwise thing to do, and to let the other person kind of lead them on to think that, or maybe coworkers, people around you, to think that dynamic is acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that if it got to that point where that word is even being used, then it's a good time to revisit and be like, okay, what have I done to mislead the situation and make it look like it is not what it is.
Here's the thing, like, it isn't so much about the word, and I know words mean a lot to you. The like hearing that probably would just hurt on its own. But what really matters is like for a woman, the moment you become emotionally involved,
That's it.
like that's where you're like, whoa, why am I thinking about this person on a random night when I'm trying to be with my husband?
Mm.
Right? And the same thing for a man,
Nope.
like
Nope.
when it becomes like when you start like thinking about it over and over, like then it becomes an issue and you have to and here's the thing, that's not a sin. You having thoughts is not the sin, but what do you do with that thought, and like do you actually submit it to the presence of God? And then you realize that maybe you put yourself in that situation, you entertained that relationship a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I've had instances where that could have become a thing because of work, how much time you spend in relation to other people. I've always, by trying to honor you in every way possible, I subtract myself from situations, from relationship, from conversations. Maybe I'll have a quick talk, and when the moment starts getting into like personal things, and like you could like, I personally can tell a lot about body language. So when I'm noticing like a girl's talking to me and starts like fixing her hair and like doing that, I'm like, all right, I'm out. Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to give you the wrong impression, and I'll make it. I make that known. Like I will walk away
Because your presence is already making it's taking effect on them, and the same thing can happen vice versa. A lot of affairs are emotional affairs. They're
100%.
just, we didn't do anything.
Do you
We
know? I'm trying to figure out what it is that I heard this, but it was something astonishing as like 2/3 of women already have a plan B if their marriage don't work out.
Wow.
Like it's almost like if something were to happen to my husband, if I would have died, or I mean, if they would have died, or if they would have get sick, or something happens where
Like,
we don't end up together, they emotionally already have a plan B.
oh, I was thinking like I have life insurance.
No, no, no,
That's
no,
what I
no.
was thinking.
Like that. I mean, that's cool, but like that's a lot worse. Like
Right.
I said, well, if it doesn't work out with Priscilla, like I'm gonna just go to this girl.
Like a fallback.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
That's just crazy.
I can't fathom.
So like the
that.
fact that you even entertain that is an issue, right?
Yeah.
Now,
It speaks to your current situation and your current relationship. Why
Yeah.
you would think that you are not maybe safe enough with that person or devoted enough to that person to think that,
yeah.
well, I gotta have a plan B if anything
Mm-mm.
fails.
What I'm trying to make sure that people understand is that just because you're a Christian and you have Jesus in your heart doesn't mean that the enemy won't attack you. It doesn't mean that he's gonna not place attractive people in your life so that you never have a way to stumble. Like there will come opportunities in your life where you will have the opportunity to sin. Joseph. I'm gonna look it up in the Bible real quick, but what to give you? I'm gonna give you a little bit of context. Joseph was betrayed by his siblings. He goes to prison, and eventually, he says in the Bible that everything he did it right. Like he was submitted to God, and everything ended up in prison, and eventually, he ended up being the second in command in Potiphar's house. And it says in the Bible that his wife wanted to have sexual relationship with him. Now, for a quick second, if this is a very important person, it was an official, right? And he had a lot of riches and money. More than likely, his wife was very good looking, right? And his wife wanted to have sexual relationships with Joseph, and Joseph was tempted. What did he do?
He fled.
He fled. He ran, and on the way out, she grabbed him by the rope. He ended up running completely naked. And the whole situation of him escaping from that potential sin, because he knew that would not only betray Potiphar, but it will only betray God. It will also betray God. He ended up running, looking like a fool, looking worse because she ended up blaming him. Ended up back in prison. But this whole story just to tell you that
all
when
things work together for his good.
when you're committed to this work, when you're committed to this Bible, pass me that Bible real quick. I've left my Bible in the car, but when you committed to this, that's how you know. That's how you know this Bible has some character. But when you committed to this thing, I'm telling you, God will always work things for you good. And he ended up obviously being the second in command in the whole Egypt. So all this to tell you this, just because you're with God and just because you're always trying to do the right thing doesn't mean that the enemy won't attack you. I feel like I'm thinking here of like, obviously the enemy's not gonna attack somebody that's playing on his team. He's always gonna attack, the people that he feels threatened by, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at like what typically happens within the body of Christ, and what typically happens with godly men is that they fall due to an infidelity most of the time.
Yeah, like why does it have to be sexual
Yeah,
immorality,
like
right?
you don't see women fall into infidelity. Like it happens.
Yeah, but not as
what I'm
publicly,
saying is
like,
not as publicly, and it's not as consistent as the men do.
also like most of the, if we're talking in the pastor realm here, or preacher or speaker, most of them are men.
Yeah.
There are a lot of women in this space, and
Yeah.
more now these days, but there's just statistically there's more guys.
I just gotta say this, like, cause I just wanna, oh man, I just wanna say that woman, and at this particular moment, I'm referring to my wife. You're so beautiful. You're so like beautifully and carefully and wonderfully and
Oh.
fiercely made.
Thank you.
Like,
babe.
like God made woman beautiful. Like, I don't, and I don't think you've ever experienced the way that I do, because you're not attracted to that. You're attracted to a different kind. But
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like women are beautifully made.
Right.
Like there's so much beauty in women, right? So that's not something that you will ever struggle because you're not attracted to women
Right.
in that kind of way. But the thing with this is that I'm extremely attracted to you, and I believe that is important.
Oh.
What does it say? The movie.
I gotta restart it.
This one too.
Yeah.
No way. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where it stopped. But for those people that are watching, well, regardless of where we left off or where we stopped recording, I'm glad that this is still gonna be said. It might not be a clip, but at least it was said, and you guys, for those of you who stayed to this point of the conversation, you guys will get all of it. But but I just gotta say that, man, like women are so beautiful. They're so like I said, wonderfully made, carefully made, fiercely made. Like where when I look at you and how beautiful and delicate you look and all your curves and your eyes and your eyebrows and your hair and the way the wind hits your hair I mean it's a whole experience.
Romantic.
It's a whole experience to see that in my wife, right? And in the same way, I understand and I can admire beauty from different places. And that admiring beauty is not a sin. It's where you take that thought and then if you let it keep going and it becomes lost, that's a sin. Yes. You can admire beauty with no problem. The problem is where you start entertaining the thought, where you start thinking about like, oh, well, look at that woman. And babe, it happened to David. It happened to David. David was not at war in the time where it was supposed to be war. He was comfortable at that point. He let his guard down and he saw Delilah. Was it Delilah?
No, Bathsheba.
Bathsheba, thank you. Delilah was Samson's wife.
Nope,
anyways,
not wife. What was it? Were they married?
No, they were married. Oh, that's another story. But anyways, Bathsheba. And she was naked and she was beautiful and all this stuff. And he saw her and he could have just been like just a beautiful woman and go back. Yet that's not what he did. He ended up having sexual relationships with her, knocked her up, got her pregnant, actually kills the guy that was her husband so that nobody will know that it was actually David's baby. I mean, we talk about David being this huge amazing person, but like we have to understand that and we have to see the whole context of the story, that they were so much bad into the person that literally still known to be the one after God's heart. Just because you follow Christ, just because you follow God does not mean you don't have a capability of stumbling.